Hi, everybody, and welcome to Uncommon Sense America. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Michael Cohen guilty plea and the Paul Manafort convictions that happened on Tuesday, August 21st of this year. So, one of the reasons why this story is getting a lot of media coverage and attention right now, it really has more to do with the weird timing of the guilty plea and the convictions of Paul Manafort, maybe more than actually kind of what's going on with the guilty plea and the convictions. So the thing about the timing is that both of these events occurred within an hour of each other on Tuesday, and both of these men were connected in different ways with Trump. And in certain cases with his political campaign leading up to the 2016 presidential election. So taking a quick step back, you might be wondering, who are, Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort. Well, Michael Cohen, he was a former attorney for Trump. Some people refer to him as one of Trump's fixers, so to speak. So a guy who could just make bad laundry go away for Trump. Paul Manafort, he was a former campaign chairman for Trump. So again, leading up to that 2016 presidential election. So, right now, some people they're smelling blood in the water, and they're really getting worked up into this frenzy, and they're thinking, hey, these two guys were bad. They committed crimes. And they worked with the president in some capacity in the past. Therefore, the president is bad, and the president also committed crimes. That's not necessarily true, and I don't want to get into too much speculation over whether that's the case or not. We're going to have to wait for some more facts and reports to come out in the coming months to see if that's actually the case. But let's take a step back and let's kind of look at this in perspective of, why is this a big deal with the Michael Cohen guilty plea and the Paul Manafort convictions. Both of these men's crimes were basically uncovered as a consequence of the investigation that's still going on. It's still being carried out by special counsel Robert Mueller. Really their names are just add them to the list of, people already convicted over the course of the investigation. These people include Michael Flynn, who is a former national security advisor to Trump, who pled guilty to lying to the FBI. Richard Gates, who worked with Manafort and admitted to embezzling hundreds of thousands of dollars from him and told prosecutors that he and Manafort had committed crimes together. George Papadopoulos, who is a former foreign policy advisor to Trump, but admitted lying to the FBI about communications with the Russians, kind of leading up to the 2016 election. And then, there were the 13 Russian nationals and 12 Russian intelligence officers indicted over interference in the 2016 election. There were a couple other actors involved in this as well. I don't want to get into all of them and everything they were convicted of or accused of or anything like that. Now, again, these men, they were found guilty of these crimes as a result of the Mueller investigation. The original purpose and the scope of the investigation was to ensure a full and thorough investigation of the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, as well as uncovering any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump and any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation. And that's where Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort come into play. They fall into that second kind of bullet point there. They're under the matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation. Now, Cohen pled guilty to 8 criminal charges. Some of these were totally unrelated to President Trump. They were mostly concerned with tax fraud, and some were campaign finance violations. Now, the important part here is that Cohen stated under oath in court that he paid off or arranged to have paid off 2 women Trump allegedly had affairs with. So Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, for their silence just prior to the 2016 elections. He also stated in court that, and I quote here, "I participated in this conduct for the principal purpose of influencing the election," and that he acted, quote, "in coordination with and at the direction of a candidate for federal office," end quote. Now, in court proceedings and reports, they don't name people that have not been convicted of a crime, but the inference here is that he's referring to Donald Trump, obviously. So it's him stating that he did this for the purpose of influencing an election. That's paying these women off. That's what makes this campaign finance violation and a crime. He confessed to it. It's recorded, and he was reimbursed by Trump for those payments. So at this point, Trump saying anything along the lines of that, he didn't know what the payments were for, or that they don't amount to a campaign finance violation or a crime. At this point, it's just ridiculous. There are recordings of him, discussing these payments with Cohen, and for anyone to, kind of discount that Trump knew about this prior to them happening. I think you really just need to go back and look at the facts. Another important part of this story is that as part of his plea deal that Cohen cut with prosecutors, Cohen could face a drastically reduced sentence if he cooperates in a meaningful way with the Mueller investigation. So Cohen's already indicated that he might have some more information for Mueller. And again, this is really just speculation. No one knows for sure at this point, when this video is being recorded, how much more he knows and what the legal and or political implications could be for President Trump. Now, the other kind of actor in this story, which has been unfolding over the past couple of days, is Paul Manafort. Now, he was convicted on 8 of, I believe it was 18 criminal counts. Most of these deal with tax fraud. They're not really related to the Trump campaign. Again, one of the big reasons why he's in the news is that he's been associated with Trump. He worked for Trump in the past, and it's that timing. The timing of Cohen's guilty plea and Paul Manafort's convictions happening within an hour of each other in the same day. Now, Manafort has not testified against Trump. Some people are speculating that he's possibly holding out for a presidential pardon. Trump himself has indicated through tweets that some of this might just be kind of BS, but that he respects Manafort's character for not cracking under the pressure like Cohen did. Trump has really expressed quite a bit of disdain for Cohen for basically flipping on him and essentially testifying against him in court. So in wrapping this video up, some people are wondering, well, what's next in the whole Trump-Russia investigation? Some people are really concerned that Trump is going to fire or try to fire special counsel Robert Mueller, but a lot of other people are really discounting that possibility, thinking that it's really just going to amount to political and career suicide to do that, and not to mention obstruction of justice. On the side of Mueller and his team of investigators and prosecutors, they've basically indicated that they're not going to indict a sitting president, which basically goes back to an old Justice Department regulation of not doing that. But they could still change their minds and at least try to do so. Now, some people have been floating around this idea of impeachment, and this is really a big deal if it's found that Trump really willingly and knowingly conspired with Cohen or possibly other parties that might be uncovered in the future to, commit crimes, to possibly obstruct justice, to collude with the Russian government, to definitively influence the 2016 presidential election. That could be a bigger deal. But what people have to remember and to realize here is that impeachment, that is not strictly a legal process or proceeding. Mueller and his team, they can't impeach the president. It's a political act, and that would have to be started with the House of Representatives, with them invoking articles of impeachment. So right now, there's mostly a lot of circumstantial evidence, a lot of it, but it is circumstantial, that Trump or members of his campaign did collude with the Russian government to influence the 2016 presidential election. And we have to remember that's what the primary focus and scope of the Mueller investigation is. So, any speculation over whether other parties acted illegally or not, again, Manafort and Cohen and all of these other people I named earlier in the video, they're kind of a consequence, they're collateral damage of the investigation that Robert Mueller is conducting. So that's going to do it for this video, and I will talk to you in the next one.